How's everyone doing today? How is everyone doing? Hopefully, well, hopefully you get your internet fixed before sooner than you expected, and yeah. All right. Well, we'll give everybody. I haven't finished that stream starting soon animation screen, so for the time being, you'll just have to put up with my talking. I moved things around a little bit. I don't know if you guys can tell. Maybe you can. But we'll see. Hopefully, it's still a work in progress. I was not feeling very well yesterday, so if you missed my yesterday stream, if you were looking forward to your Saturday slice of programming and didn't get it, well, my bad. I was not feeling very well. I feel much better. It was amazing how quickly I recovered from it. But yeah, I was not feeling very well at all yesterday. So today we have quite a bit on security. Quite a bit. Absolutely quite a bit on security. There was a lot of different things that I think you guys might find interesting that I'm going to bring up. And then there's only a little bit of cloud news. After cloud news, there are quite a few things that were open source that I want to go over. So we have another open source section. I don't have a article to read over together today. I didn't find one that had a title that seemed worthy of a response. So if you guys want that, if you enjoy that, find one yourself. If you have one and like me to do it, now's your time. Put that in the chat. And yeah. So, how's everyone doing? You know, I don't feel like I'm centered. This is centered. Okay, I'm gonna sit over here. Like I said, I moved everything around just a little bit, so yeah, I'm still working on it a little bit. The monitors are set up, not that you can see that, but they're set up in a little way where I'm hopefully going to be able to monitor chat a little bit easier while doing some of the stuff. So we'll see. I'm getting used to it. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. But you know what we're going to do before we get into it? We're going to start Twitch alerts. So if there is somebody that decides to follow, it works now. Let me go ahead and get that started. Cargo. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. All right, let's get into the news. We're going to start with security today. As always, it's super important. Good evening, Russell. How are you doing? I'm glad to see you here. A new follower. I'm super excited. I don't know how you followed because I've just been talking about how we're waiting for some people to show up before we start the show, but I'm glad that you're here and followed because, oh no, it crashed. Never mind, I'm not excited. I didn't, garbage. Oh, garbage. You know what I didn't do? I didn't do this, and I didn't even look to check. Who knows how long I didn't even look to check that I had set it up properly. Now you might want to go ahead and follow again. If you do, that would be great. Because we're now actually listening. We have our very own Twitch alerts that don't show up on screen yet. Okay, I don't have my key. I'm not leaking my key now. I'll show you. We have our own Twitch alerts now that that gives us that will show up on screen eventually, but right now they don't show up on screen. And yeah. Oh, we see here. We see our new event right here. Give it a second. Oh no. I think we actually broke it. But that's not today's. We're going to have to come back and fix this. Today is the news. If you follow me on some other days, you'll get to see us fix this because we were actually inserting the story into a database. So now it's in the database, but I don't think we actually print it to screen anymore. That's my bad. Let's get into the news. All right. We're starting with security, and tomorrow we'll program some more, or Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays we program. Okay. VM2 sandbox escape. Sorry about that. 1 second. Lucindy? I'm going to say Lucindy. That sounds nice. Sorry about that. Absolutely sorry about that. All right. There was a VM2 sandbox escape from a South Korean research lab. So they have a proof of concept. Perfect, Lucindy. I really apologize you didn't get your personalized message. It is there. It's just in a database. But we're working on it. And eventually you'll be able to see it on my website as well. So it will be there. Anyways. There is a VM2 sandbox escape. So if you're using VM2, it's a don't want to call it a virtual machine, but it's kind of a virtual machine for Node. It looks to isolate your Node processes to run in a secure manner. I don't use it, but I thought since we're developers, I'm trying to bring things that could be impactful to developers. So this might be something to know about. As far as I know, if you read on through here, it has been patched. So you just need to update to the latest one. But yeah, I kept an eye on this. So give it a check. You'll have to hack my database to see. That's right. At this point, if you want your alert, you're gonna have to hack my database. Eventually, it's gonna pop up on screen for you all, but that part, that's actually the next part. That's actually we're putting in the database so we can show it on screen. So we just haven't done that part yet. Okay. So yeah. Anyways, it's a sandbox that runs untrusted code in Node's built-in modules. So. I thought that could be some of you. I don't use Node a whole lot, but thought that could be some of you. A thing I saw on Twitter this week was this. It's something I have inherently done. It's almost like credit card scammers. But I always just plug in a USB charging to the electrical plug. But that's just out of my own paranoia because I know my connector. But the FBI just recently said to avoid free charging stations in airports. So this isn't really security from software, but I thought you guys should know because us tech people love our smartphones. And anyways, hackers have been using it to introduce malware and monitoring software into your devices. I always carry my own charger anyhow. And I think that this would probably also apply to like in your hotel rooms. I would say especially in your hotel rooms because all they have to do is get into the room and then they have a private time to tamper with the USB charger. I always bring my own anyways. It's usually faster charging anyhow. So yeah, anyways, saw that. Definitely, yeah, think about it. All right. I don't know what Waza is, but it is the open source security platform. I haven't used it, so this is not a recommendation. I know that we really talk about security, and if you're in a spot in your company to look at security, I think it's something that's worth checking out. I read up a little bit on it, and it looks like it works to give you a lot of MITRE ATT&CK monitoring and techniques. So it might be something really useful. Again, I haven't used it myself. I just found it. But well, I think it's pretty new. So when I say I just found it, yeah, I just Lucindy, if you're asking, what we do here is we actually get your name and we use generative AI to make a personalized subscriber or follow message for the person that subscribes. We used to print it out to the screen. We just started saving it to the database, and I forgot that we still need to print it out to the screen because that's the only way to show it. But so everybody gets their own personal message. We're going to also generate a picture for them because that's going to be fun. So everybody's subscription and follow is going to be unique and special to them. Anyways. Oh, really? You used to be an AI bot on Twitch? That's cool. Okay. Hackers flood npm with bogus packages, causing a DDoS attack. This was really interesting. So they actually, if you had troubles with npm, they were under a DDoS, and how the hackers did it was actually creating millions of bogus packages. I bring this up because the access pattern to your API or whatnot is really important to think about how hackers could, a lot of times we think of DDoS attacks by, just hitting a simple request on your web, and this was done by actually the creation of bogus npm packages. So I thought this was really cool and interesting. I recommend you guys reading it if you'd like. Oh, you're talking about the CFT. We can maybe CFT a little bit later because I think I would have to hack the database as it is right now. I get it. I get what you're saying now. Sorry about that. All right. Microsoft reports new attacks using Azure AD Connect, and this I'm bringing this up for two reasons. I know there are some of you who are in Azure. On top of that, this is why it's always important to have defense and layers, is because there are 0 days that get hacked. So you will get hacked by a 0 day eventually if statistics prove. And that's why defense in depth is important. But also if you are if you're using Azure AD tenants, you need to check out for this. Watch out for this. So I know some of you do. So there's that. Jump on it. All right, Dozer. Okay. I don't know. This was not supposed to be right now. This is part of the open source. My bad. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Like I said, we have a bunch of open source things that came up and that I saw, and we're going to talk about. I'm just going to show you some interesting ones that I saw. Apple had a bunch of iOS, Mac OS, and okay, so this doesn't say it, but there was Safari bugs in here as well. So that had critical yeah, the WebKit, which was the Safari, that had critical execution paths. So if you are on Apple, I don't run on Apple, but if you are on Apple, you should make sure to update everything right now. So yeah, more Windows 0 day, poor Windows. Just again, yeah. All right. This was an interesting thing that happened, and this happened in a cloud provider. So there was a Linux kernel that was released that was vulnerable to Spectre attacks. So I know that we dealt with Spectre in 2018, and everybody's computer got slower thanks to the restrictions on predictive algorithms. And a lot of the base fixes were actually in some of the ways the OS has dealt with them. And there was a Spectre flaw in the version 6.2 of the Linux kernel. And so, yeah, it was patched. But anyways, if you are on the Linux kernel, on one of the bleeding edges of the Linux kernel, you actually are vulnerable to a Spectre attack. Now, I don't know that there's any actual attacks being done on this, but it was there and it has been patched. So you need, now I know a lot of people aren't on the bleeding edge in production. I think the production kernels are a little bit slower out there. It's 6.2 is pretty bleeding edge. It's not bleeding edge, but it's pretty new. So I'm not sure a ton of people are using it, but it's good to know there is a Spectre attack on there. Moving on. We all love Rust. We all love Hyper. There is a CVE issued for Hyper of a denial of service. I think this is really awesome on several levels for Rust. This is really awesome. And the reason it's awesome is that it means that security researchers are actually looking into Rust modules that people use every single day, and these things are getting more secure. So it was under only moderate severity, which how it gets its severity is sometimes complicated. It deals with how easy it is to exploit what happens with the exploit. Like, is your data at risk, or denial of service is not as high as like remote code execution or elevated privileges. But yes, a lot of stuff goes into that. But it means that Rust and its ecosystem are getting more scrutiny, which is good for the ecosystem as a whole. So yeah, it's really good. Yeah, you should update. It's been patched, so go ahead and update if you're using Hyper. All right, and that's it. That's it for our security. Did anybody else see anything in security? The new Rust policy is getting some scrutiny. Yes, we talked about the Rust policy last week. I have sent in my comments. I'm not as big of a name as some other people who have already made public videos, so I decided not to make a video on my YouTube channel about it because I don't carry nearly as much weight as they do. And you know what? As I have said, my hope is that they had the best intentions, and that... Oh, Android 0 Day. My hope that the Rust community had the best intentions, and that because of that, I don't want to make people upset about it. I want us to handle it like adults. Because if they had the best intentions and it's just a misstep, we all make missteps. We all make mistakes. We say things we don't mean or are taken the wrong way, or we do things without fully understanding what it would mean to our community. And you know what? I'm gonna make a misstep at some point as well, or have made missteps. So in that, we need to make sure that we're coming to them in a productive manner. Now, if it turns out that they're not doing it with best intentions, then you know what? It's okay. Rust is an open source project and it will just get forked and we'll deal with it then. But that's what I want to encourage people to do, is I want them to go and tell the Rust Foundation, or what I say is the Rust Federation right now. I want you to go and tell them that you're not happy with it, but do it in a respectful way. Go with the idea that they made a mistake not understanding, and we can all move on. If they prove that they knew what they were doing, then I'll release a video about how we're releasing Oxidized, a new language forked from Rust. All right. So Russell, thanks for bringing up another 0 day. This is awesome. This isn't awesome. I think they made the policy with ChatGPT. If they came out and said, we're sorry, we asked ChatGPT to advise us, and this is what we got, I think everybody would laugh, and it would be fantastic. All right, so Google CIS, this is the Infrastructure and Security, U.S. federal agency, warned of Android flaw after reports of Chinese app 0 day exploitation. Oh boy. I'm not going to say that I run Android, but I don't run Google, so now you all know what I'm vulnerable to. So an Android vulnerability that was reportedly exploited as a 0 day by a Chinese application against millions of devices. You know what? This is why I don't install a ton of applications on my phone, but this is good to know. So this was an OEM specific vulnerability. Interesting. So which OEM? Well, always update your phone as well. Always update your phone. And really, I do this with my phone. I don't install just anything. Good call. Thanks for putting this out there. All right. Keycloak joins the CNCF as an incubating project. All tech will be hacked. All tech will be hacked. If you have a service, your service can be hacked. There's a vulnerability that you don't know about right now. I think that's why I try to reiterate that as a software engineer. And as a software engineer, I think it's really important for you to understand that and why security is so important. Why doing these things that take time. You know what? Zero trust can be a little bit painful to implement. And it takes time and effort, but it's worth the time and effort, because when you do get hacked and you have zero trust in place, you can be like, hey, look, this is all that they got access to because this was the vulnerable thing and they couldn't get past it. And you get to give that to your users and explain to them how you've taken that extra step to protect them. So, anyways. You use Keycloak a lot and you hate it? I was going to say, I actually think that the CNCF is a little too easy to get something into it. And this is not me hating on the Keycloak project, but I don't know why Keycloak is going for the CNCF. If you look into Keycloak, it doesn't actually fit its standard of kind of the projects that I wanted its Git repository. Okay, if you have an open source project, put the Git at the top. All right. Put the Git link at the top. You know, and I'm not gonna hate on Java, but Keycloak is primarily Java, not Go, which that's okay. I think Foundation should have multiple different projects. But I really don't know of a lot of people that say a lot of good things about Keycloak. I really never heard of somebody that was like, yeah, Keycloak is the best. Maybe that's just me, but I've seen a lot of Monta. Anyways, it's accepted into the CNCF. So we'll see how that goes. It's more than user management. It's an IAM solution. Well, that I mean, you can even run. I mean, it's super powerful. It's an older project. Red Hat's been way behind it for a long time. But yeah, I mean, you can do it for your applications running in Kubernetes or Kubernetes itself. So it has a lot of applications for that. But yeah, I've just never seen somebody that really likes using it. All right, let's jump into AWS. That's all I found for Kubernetes. Last week, we covered the 127 Kubernetes release notes. So if that's something you're interested in, you can watch last week's stream. Also, I will release a video in a couple of weeks going over everything with my top picks of the most important. Last week, we really covered them in depth. So if that's what you're wanting, or just like we looked at each one of them and talked about them a little bit. I didn't pick out the best ones. We just literally looked over all of them and talked a little bit about them. Amazon Bedrock is the biggest thing that I saw of Amazon. Actually, I didn't see anything else. I looked over all of the other Amazon-related newsfeed, and there was nothing other than the easiest way to build and scale generative AI applications with everybody's doing like releasing their own generative AI stuff. You know what? It's going to be really interesting, the laws that come around this. Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see the laws that come around this and whether they can continue doing what they're doing. You use it for Grafana? Yeah, that's classic. So this is the I don't know. I haven't used it, but supposedly you can make your own generative AI with Bedrock, and it supports text, chat, search, image generation, text summarization. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do with it. So yeah, I don't know. Everybody's releasing their own at this point. GCP was almost as lame. They didn't even release a highlight for this week, but I even looked through here and I didn't find anything. But I did find something from Google that I think it relates to security, and I think is worth a good read for you all. So I'm going to release this. This isn't a product from them, but I think it's a decent read. New initiatives to reduce the risk of vulnerabilities and protect researchers. So if you're interested in vulnerability researchers and way to, so actually vulnerability researchers have been under attack as of recently. We've covered a couple of those. But yeah, so it's a decent read. I don't know if anything will come of it, but I know that Google themselves do a lot of research on it. So we'll see. All right, as far as Azure, it was a really light week. The only thing I found was this, that the general availability of the Azure Cosmos for Postgres REST APIs, I know that we talked about it when it came out in, it was either alpha or beta that we talked about it. So yeah, it's there. It's now generally available. You should have an SLA on it now. So that's cool. And the other thing that I saw was this: manage your APIs with Azure API management, self-hosted gateway v2. This isn't necessarily about their cloud, but it's also part of their cloud. So you can now self-host the Azure API gateway. It's their v2. It gives you a management control plane, an API gateway, and a developer portal. So this looks really interesting and might help with some of their on-premise things. So when I say on-premise, you want to use Azure Cloud and your own on-premise resources. This looks to be helping bridge that gap. Self-hosted, you're saying, ugh. I think the reason you can still use their you can have it as the Azure API management gateway and not self-host it. I think the reason that this is coming out this way is that you can also self-host it, not that you have to self-host it. And this is why right here. This is why right here. You could have it on premise. You can have it on other clouds, OpenShift, GKE, EKS. It has to run in a Kubernetes cluster. It manages Kubernetes cluster, and it allows you to have this single pane of glass here across that with your gateway and management control plane and developer portal. So it's kind of their multi-cloud solution, or part of it. So anyways, you don't have to self-host it. You can run it in Azure if you like. On top of that, again, this isn't really the Azure cloud, but it's Microsoft. So I'm going to dump it in with this, is DeepSeed. Now, I talked about how everybody's coming out with their own generative AI because that's the new fad. DeepSeed is something that Microsoft open sourced. So, wait, I didn't check its license. I think it's Apache. Yeah, it is Apache. I was going to say, I thought it was Apache. So DeepSeed empowers ChatGPT-like model training with a single click. I haven't used it. I know that we ourselves are going to take an open source thing and train it. Right now, we use ChatGPT to do our follower and subscriber thing, which we can't see because I screwed it up. But we'll have to pick one that we want to use. DeepSeed is now one that's out there. Microsoft just open sourced it. So that's pretty cool. All right. That's it for our cloud news. That's it. Now, like I said, I don't have an article for us to review. I do have some open source projects and a little bit of news around about. Actually, I have a company to critique, Tencent, a Chinese company. And I don't know that that's how you pronounce their name, Tencent. That's how, if it was an English word, I would pronounce it, but it's probably wrong. Um, and yeah, if there is a article you'd like me to go over with you guys live at the end of this, please link it. And we can do it at the end. One second. Russell sent something. Let's see what this is. What is this? Trickiest workflow. What is this, just a collection? Hmm. We'll have to look over this. Okay, so it has the CVEs and their proof of concept. That's really cool. I'd actually like to review some of them because I think that actually is a good way to learn. Maybe I could make some videos later this year, just going over some of them and helping developers think about how their code can be vulnerable. I think that's really important. Cool. I'm gonna bookmark that. Awesome. All right. First thing, that's not at all what I wanted to do. Not at all. All right. First thing, this. Tencent said to have demoted and fired tech bosses after brief outage. So this outage was very, very brief. It's their WeChat payment, and file transfer, and mailbox. I believe the outage was less than an hour, which is a lot of time in the tech world. But the root cause was a cooling system failure at a data center. So that yeah. Anyways, and their management felt the accident exposed an imperfect disaster recovery and emergency plan and the hidden dangers associated with that. Now, my problem here with this is that disaster recovery is hard. Disaster recovery that you don't ever get to replicate is even harder. So you can't replicate a complete cooling system failure in a data center and test that. I mean, unless these people were given a spare data center that they could do anything that they wanted to. There's only so good. And if you fire the people who have actually been through it, you've just let go the people that actually know how to deal with that situation. I'm sure that there was mistakes made. Obviously, there wasn't enough redundancy, and sometimes it's understanding what's an acceptable redundancy. Do you plan on a complete cooling system failure? I don't know, because that brings down an entire data center. Do you have the funding to have a spare data center on standby? These are the types of things that go into it, and it's not an easy problem. So, anyways, I think that unless if there was malicious action or just, again, you'd have to say, right, unless if there was a previous, if they're repeating mistakes, that is where I say, when you start to repeat mistakes, is when you're just being lazy and incompetent, where you're doing the same thing over and over again, and you don't get the funding to have whatever cooling system or way to do it. So it feels like a very bad knee-jerk reaction. I just want to call it out because I don't think that you should run your company that way or make your employees feel like this is what is going to happen. Or Mr. Robot got in the data center. So anyways, I just wanted to call that out because I think it's really important that you encourage learning from mistakes, and when mistakes do happen, you evaluate them, and then you learn from them, so that your team never makes those mistakes again, whether it's process change or tooling change or disaster recovery changes that you learned from that. You don't make the same mistake again, and so you just let go the people that know the best about it. So anyways, yep, that was my critique here. I found this, I love when Cloudflare releases something because they release so much information. This is a ton of information. I'm not gonna go over all of it unless you guys want to, and then this is the article we can react over. I am going to drop the link for you all. Check for a Raspberry Pi behind the data center server rack. Yeah, that's, you know what? That's actually scary. That's like a huge, this little device would be such a big problem. Like, yeah. Internet disruption overview for Q1 of 2023. They give a lot of data over just what they observe, where it happened. So they talk about Iran and how Iran restricted internet access during the protests. And yeah, they go on and on and on. So it's definitely interesting. So I'm giving it to you guys, so if you're interested in it. Again, a lot. There's a lot across the world. It's really awesome that they actually compile this data, and yeah, even to the earthquake in Turkey, which is really sad that they had that, but the internet outages and whatnot. Yeah, anyways. Another thing that I saw is RF diffusion is now free and open source. I don't know that this is anything that you guys are going to use. Baker Lab does things about generative AI for protein design, and so they built a tool that helps you design proteins. And yeah, it's called RF diffusion because everything after stable diffusion has to have diffusion in it. So they have a cool animation. Anyways, it's cool to see another open source project. Again, I don't know that any of us are into protein design, but if you are, this is out there. An interesting thing I saw was Intel is optimizing its fab to become an ARM chip manufacturer. Interesting. The different things that you guys are thinking about protein building are the things that come across your guys' minds. That scares me sometimes. And no, this is never going to save Kay's cooking, period. I think this is weird. I'm not sure. Did ARM need... Did it need... I don't understand why it will make licensing... The only thing that I can think here, and the only thing I can think here, is that ARM has a problem that Apple can make better chips than ARM can. I don't mean to be like... But yeah, Qualcomm, MediaTek have lagged way behind Apple designing ARM chips. And so the only thing I can think of is possibly Intel's looking to design the chip. I'm not sure manufacturing is what they want to do, but to actually design a good ARM chip. That's my only thought that they could say is, hey, we can actually design a really good ARM chip. Because they're good at designing chips in general. I don't know. I'm interested in this. I'm going to be following along with this. I don't know why Intel has a picture of a violinist here. Like, that's an interesting picture. But yeah, that's Intel. All right, more generative AI. How generative AI is changing the way developers work. It's a blog about from some of the best coding generative AI that I've used. We've tested out a bunch. There was actually a update to Code Whisperer. So this week we're going to be trying Code Whisperer for all of our streams, which is AWS's solution to Copilot. yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna leave this. If you guys, I'm not sure I agreed with it. I'm not sure I agreed with it. I think that generative AI is a big old gaping hole in your code at this point. But yeah, don't name your project Fleet. There's this new project called Fleet, and I want to just give them the idea of don't calling it Fleet. There's Rancher Fleet. There is the Fleet code editor at this point. There is another Fleet thing from Cisco. Don't call it Fleet. I know why they called it Fleet, because if you're trying to manage a bunch of IoT devices, this is actually for you. So check it out. Search for Fleet DM, though, if you're going to. You know what? I'll just give you guys the link. I'm a nice person like that. Um, but yeah, if that's what you're wanting to do, Fleet is there for you. So it's a cool open source project. It is based in Go. I like Go a lot, so yeah, give it a check and see if that's what you need. Now, while we're talking about new open source projects, I found yet another more interesting open source project. It's claiming to be the next generation SQLite. Yeah. And here, you know what? I'm so glad that you followed. We are working on custom subscriber and follower messages. And guess what? You have a custom message stored for you with your name that we generated in our database. It's in our database and it doesn't display on here because I screwed up. But I really appreciated it. It's going to generate a custom message for you, and thank you so much for the follow. I hope that you enjoy this content. And you know what? I also stream on the weekdays. We actually write that code and some other code. We write a bunch of different code. I didn't stream yesterday. I was super sick yesterday, so sorry about that. Didn't stream. Anyways, next generation SQLite. SQLite is old. We don't want it anymore. We want something new. And that's where it comes with libsql, a next generation fork of SQLite. So it is actually a fork of SQLite. I actually did download SQLite tools, so we can query the database. We might do that after this, if you all want to, after the news is done. All right. So libsql is the next generation fork of SQLite. I don't know if this is true. This is what they're claiming. So some of their comments here was like, SQL claims to be open source, not open to contribution, which is true. They very much want it to be their project, and that's fine. I don't think just because you make something open source that you need to feel pressured to accept other people's contributions if you don't want to. Now, I might argue why you're making it open source. I would make that argument. But that's also fine if that's what you want to do. So anyways, libsql is an open source, open contribution fork of SQLite. So, yeah. The thing I don't know here is if it's a drop-in replacement. If it will work just by basically replacing the binaries. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how long they'll stay together. Like if you are forking, when do you diverge to a place where you're not API compatible or things like that? So yeah, and a lot of times SQLite is embedded in your application, which means like for Rust, there is a wrapper for Rust, so you can do SQLite in Rust, but there isn't one for libsql. So there provides a lot of problems with this. Is that the logo, the Evil Corp logo from Mr. Robot? You mean this little rocket? I don't think so. Anyways, Dozer is another project out there. This is not the one I meant to have right after this. Not at all. 1 second. This is not the one I wanted to... Oh, no. I missed a link. I missed a link. Well, stink. There was another open source project, none of these, that is basically the Maya or SQLite of NoSQL or document database. That's what they were claiming, is that it was trying to... Let me see if I can't find it really quickly. My bad on this. It was trying to be the NoSQL of SQLite. So basically an in-process, I'll link it in my Discord if I find it. I will find it. I just have to go back through my notes for the week. Sorry about that. Well, the hero image. Oh, is this? I don't know. Anyways, we'll talk about Dozer. Connect any data source, combine them in real time, and instantly get low latency data APIs. It's an interesting project. Dozer looks to basically connect any backend, any data lake, Kafka, Postgres, Ethereum. I don't know. I hate how they put Ethereum as a data backend, but it allows you to connect any of those and gives you this place where it will cache, transform, and give you APIs to that data. So if you have multiple databases, which happens in a lot of places, where you have your backends, where you have SQLite database and some other stuff, this allows you to basically provide access to all of those data backends in one place. I don't know how well it works. I've never used it. It's all written in Rust, but it was just released, I think 2 days ago is when it was finally made open source, and released under the Apache 2. So a huge step for the Rust community. This is fantastic. And I'm interested to see how well this works. It provides the data is transformed on the fly using Dozer's reactive SQL engine and stored in a high performance cache to offer the best possible experience. Seems interesting. I think its use cases are somewhat limited. You have to have like a big data warehousing and stuff like that. A lot of times data is stored in the microservices that own it, and you don't want to put Dozer in front of that, because that's almost your application's responsibility. I suppose for getting it might be okay. I would be worried about that. But if you're big on data warehousing and or you have like really cheap data stored in S3 that's not part of a database, this I think it could be really, really helpful. You like the colors? I do like the colors. They picked a good color scheme. I mean, they built it in Rust. These people are obviously intelligent. They're going to pick good color schemes anyhow. Quack is another project that I found over the week. Random. Quack is a toolkit that enables setting up a cluster of thousands of nodes in seconds. That was a long drink. Sorry. It's much lower than I thought it was, so I kept inhaling. Quack is a Kubernetes without kubelet, but what it allows you to do is simulate thousands of nodes on your laptop without significant consumption of CPU or memory resources. So currently Quack can reliably maintain 1,000 nodes, and I think this is a weird statement to make right here, this one right here. I'm sure it depends on what machine you're on. I'm sure it depends. If you're on a server with, 256 threads, you can probably do more. That would just be my guess. Unless if there's some random limit of like PIDs that you're gonna get PID thrashing with or something like that. And I'm sure it also depends on what the pods are and how many containers they are. Don't put this. Just or define it with like on my Intel laptop that's newish, because this doesn't mean a whole lot. But yeah, I've never actually used it, but this is interesting. It's interesting for a couple of reasons, because like simulating some stuff at large scale can be difficult. So now the only weird thing is if you're using it mainly for simulations of large clusters, is it really accurate to what a large cluster would act like? That I don't know, and I haven't used it a whole lot or at all. I haven't used it at all, but it's interesting. I'm interested. I'm piqued. My interest is piqued. Flight is something that I think is going to bring down Kubeflow. You all know that I love Kubeflow, but Kubeflow has a problem. Kubeflow has a major problem. Kubeflow problem is that it sucks to run locally. It sucks. It's the absolute worst to run locally. Flight, build production-grade data and ML workflows hassle-free. If you look at its installation locally, pip install flight-kit sidekit learn. That's it. This is an install pattern I can get behind. But not only does it do that, and why I'm so excited about it, is it's built to leverage Kubernetes at scale. So basically, it's the best of both worlds. I'm kind of really excited about it. It brings Kubernetes workflow automation with the ease of just running locally. It's amazing. Or at least I think it is. I haven't used it yet because I just found it this week, but I ran the pip command to install it. It took a little while to install. It's kind of big. I think when it's running locally, it uses containers and doesn't use Kubernetes because you do have to have Docker or an OCI compatible runtime, but it doesn't make you do a whole bunch of stuff. So now there is the flight cluster, and you can do this in Kubernetes, and they have a way to install it in Kubernetes, but you don't have to use it in Kubernetes to run it locally. I'm very excited about this because I want to do some more machine learning and have the Null Cloud do machine learning for us, and I think we might run flight. I hope that's how you pronounce it. That's how I'm assuming you pronounce it. Anyways. It looked cool. So anyways, those are my open source projects. Did you guys see anything else? Also, if you want to see a complete mismatch here, we have Python, Shell, Go, HCL, Mustache, Smarty, and 8% Other. Other is actually quite large. Holy cow. That is a fun code base to work on. I'm assuming a lot of it's in Python. The really performant parts are in Go. And then they obviously have a UI. So that's where the mustache and stuff comes in. I'm guessing the Python does the front end. Go is where the serious work is done. Python is for the front. Why would you do... I don't know why you would use Python. Anyways, super cool. Super cool. All right, is there an article you guys want me to review? I know I don't have one. If not, we can wrap up for today, or we can do a little database hacking. And I'm hoping that the data is actually in there. I don't know that we've ever checked that the database actually got updated. Like, we were just starting to install the tools. I know that one of our things that we were going to do over last yesterday, which I was sick and didn't do, was to actually make sure the data. So it might not even be in there, because I think, oh no. I hate to think about where the state of the database is right now. I'm going to open up the project. The state of the database might be in rough shape. We might just have screwed it up for everyone, and I apologize. Let's see. Let's see where we're at. Where are we at? Do we have our data? Do we have our data is what I want to know. We're right in here. Oh. It should have. It should have printed it out still. Oh no, that might mean we have a bug and you don't have your response. One second, let's look up here and make sure it didn't print in a weird place. All right. Oh, error return from the database, not null constraint failed. Oh no, oh no, look what I see here. We do this insert. We should still print the response though. Oh, This failed. But why didn't this work? Well, you know what? It means that your data isn't there. So, join me on Thursday. Join me on Thursday. Or Tuesday. If you would like to see join me on Tuesday if you'd like me to see this fixed. Because that's what we'll be doing Tuesday. We'll be doing that. I actually have an update to assembly line as well, so we'll get some stuff done. We'll do some Rust. I need to write some Go as well. And we're going to start designing how this is going to deploy in. We're kind of designing a new cloud deployment strategy here. And we're going to start thinking through this next week on how we're actually going to do that. I have some ideas. I think we're just going to pick one. You guys can help me pick it, and we're going to run with it, and we're going to try it. And if it sucks, we'll pick another one. No. Actually, Monta, this is better than Lambda. This is better than Lambda. I have told you all for a long time that microservices have a problem. And I made a video about how Kubernetes doesn't have a developer issue, that microservices have a developer issue. And I think we have developed a better microservice architecture that's going to be awesome. That's literally going to be awesome. And it's going to be a new way to deploy to the clouds. Anyways, I'll make a video on it as soon as we know a little bit more that we can point people to. But yeah, it's pretty cool and it's pretty unique. Yeah, I'll have to make a YouTube video on it for you all. So anyways, that's it for me today. Thank you all for joining. I hope you like the news. Join me throughout the week to see a little programming. And I'm sorry, Monta, I didn't stream yesterday because I was ill. Otherwise, I would have streamed a little Tailwind. Next Saturday, I promise you an hour of Tailwind if you join. We'll do some Tailwinding it up, and yeah, it'll be awesome. Well, or not awesome, depending on your views of Tailwind. Anyways, have a fantastic week. See you guys later.